Hello, friends. Welcome to
Ooh.
another episode of Making an Impact. I am the foe, Cody Defoe. Oh, wait. I get it wrong every time. I'll figure this out eventually. You're on this side of me now. I'm used to being on that side. This is the natural Bizarro. We're still a work in progress. We just go with the flow. It's going to be a fun time, though. How are you today, Astrid?
I'm doing better. That Impact was a good show. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's a Thursday. We got some good wrestling, some good story progression, and a good show overall.
Yeah, pretty good.
Um, what did you think of the show overall before we dive in? I guess just like things that stood out to you. What really just jumped off the page to you today?
I think not only from the women's side, obviously, but I think definitely the main event because I think I don't know if I told you on air or off air, but I know I told you last week. Um, yeah, we're gonna see the Kingdom lose their titles because they were in Rampage last week. So I thought that would be interesting. Hello, Corporate Joe. How are you? So yeah, I was thinking about that part. I was thinking about the future on and or more. So I like that was like highlighted towards the end, and that was like the way to end it, leaving you that cliffhanger kind of way too, because you're still wondering what will happen next week because they're taping, so you never know what happens next week either.
Yeah, lots of questions left at the end of the show here. Lots of possible conclusions, but also just possible advancements in different ways with different things. Um, and I mean, we picked up this show really off of some of the cliffhangers that were left from last week.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, though, like the recap from last week immediately caught my attention today, and maybe not even for the best of reasons, but when they gave the recap of last week, they showed the interaction between Josh and Bully Ray in the ring, and Josh questioning Bully Ray on like why he didn't stab him in the back, and they showed Bobby Fish coming out and issuing his challenge, and then they showed what happened after the match with Frankie cashing in option C. There was no mention in that recap about the fact that Moose and Macklin came out before Fish last week. Not a single, they cut all of the shots of Bobby Fish they cut had no Moose or Macklin. They had no mention of them coming out. There was no recognition of either one of them in this pre-show, as if they weren't even part of the story, which definitely kind of caught me as odd that we went through all of that last week for them to just not even acknowledge that it happened.
Acknowledge me. No, I'm kidding. No, not only that, but just why highlight Bobby Fish? Well, he was just there for that, and that was it. When you can just highlight your guys who are still going to be there the next week. So that strikes me like a little bit interesting to think about later on. But yeah, just it's like, how do you not forget, but how do you not highlight something like that? It's like, even after this with Cass happens, Steve and Moose are probably going to be coming back and coming towards the title soon as well. So it just makes sense to highlight them. So why didn't you? That's kind of weird.
Yeah, absolutely. But we jump right from that. They go. That was even pre-intro. They showed that part of it, and they showed Chris Bay and Juice backstage. And this was all still before we even got the opening of Impact. That we have this cold open straight to Chris Bay and Juice preparing for the match. And where's Ace Austin? Why isn't Ace with Bay? I thought he was with you, Juice. No, I thought he was with you, Chris. And we head down to the parking lot, following Chris Bay's perspective, to find Ace Austin laid out in the parking lot. Apparently, Impact's parking lot is getting as dangerous as NXT's now. All of a sudden,
Dang it, you stole what I was going to say. I was thinking, well, NXT has been pretty dangerous. So I guess Impact is making its competition now to the NXT parking lot.
yeah, absolutely. Tommy Dreamer is there. Dreamer comes running up as Juice and Bay find Ace Austin on the ground, and oh my God, what's happening? Everybody's like, "Where's Bully? Where's Bully? Where's Bully? Bully must have done this," but Bully's nowhere to be found. We get the opening video, and then we jump right to Bully Ray's music as he's making his way to the ring for this match. Jumping into the match, it all kind of flowed together. You didn't even really give it a chance to settle in and really flow through the show. It just jumped right into the match itself. And the story of the match, the wrestling in this tag match, I guess I should clarify too, Juice ended up filling in for Ace Austin. So it ended up being Juice Robinson rock hard Juice Robinson,
Yeah.
teaming with the ultimate finesser Chris Bay to take on Tommy Dreamer and Bully Ray. But the wrestling in the match was pretty generic in my mind. There wasn't anything really crazy. Felt like the best spot was kind of like a slow, almost not even a really stunning spot. It was just the spot where Dreamer reversed the art of finesse into a cutter of his own. But it was really all about the storytelling through the match. The story of everybody, even Dreamer, throughout the match, kind of questioning where Bully was at, like if they could trust Bully, if he did attack Ace. Before I kind of give my outline on that, what did you think?
Like you said, I kept thinking the match itself was simple, nothing out of the ordinary for us. But I feel like more of like the aggressiveness was part of the storytelling, and not only that, but the commentary as well. I don't remember who mentioned it exactly, but they kept mentioning, oh, it's they basically just attacked BC, and BC is always united. BC, they always support each other. So this is why Juice is replacing here is Austin, and it's like if you hurt one of them, you hurt all of them. So now this is why they're mad and they're aggressive towards Bully Ray and Tommy Dreamer in this match. But it's just like they're being an extra aggressive because of the attack that happened. And even how they mentions like, oh look, Juice is taping up on his way to the ring because he was not supposed to be part of this match. And Juice is just taking over and replacing him. So I think it's interesting, like they keep pointing that out, but at the same time, I thought, yeah, BC is united most of the time, like usual. But at the same time, when they kick you out, they literally kick you out and you're not united anymore after that happens. So it's always interesting to see both ends of it. When you think of it, it's like when you're part of it, you're really united with them and they're a family. But when they're about to kick you out, you're like blacklisted. It's like they kick you out and it will be memorable. So I like how they kept pointing that out as like they're a family and like they're basically get affected by this attack. And that's why they're so aggressive towards Tommy and Bully in this match. But aside from that, even with the ending, it's something general for me. It was something, like you said, generic. So it didn't really stand out for me in that end of it. I thought it was also interesting that Bully is pinning Juice, so Juice gets out of the ring, and then he's talking to Chris Bay about what happened with Ace Austin, but I don't know why. Maybe the way that Juice left the ring, but Juice wasn't part of the conversation. It was just Chris, because I thought it was interesting at that end of it. And it's just Chris and Bully, and then we get Tommy Dreamer getting involved more towards the end, but it takes him a while to get involved too.
Yeah, it was definitely a whodunit kind of story throughout the match more than anything. That ending, I believe Juice rolled out the other side of the ring, if I remember correctly, and Bay rolled out the close side, and Bay continued chirping at Bully about like taking out Ace, and that's why Bully rolled out and face to face, like, I have no idea what happened. I swear to you, it wasn't me. Like, basically apologizing to him. And I mentioned it to you that I almost feel like Bay is the one that seems like the most off in this story. Like, you could point and say Dreamer was the one that was there. You can point and say that maybe Juice had something to gain from taking out Ace by getting to be in this match. But I think Chris Bay, I think there's the potential of a storyline coming out of this where Bay is almost jealous of Ace being added to Bullet Club because all of a sudden Ace becomes now the X Division guy. Ace gets the opportunity to go to New Japan to compete in the best of the Super Juniors. Ace gets to be the hot shot and the new shiny new toy, and suddenly Bay is just off to the side and has to team with this new guy who he's feuded with multiple times in the past. So I personally, this is my prediction on this, is that we're going to find out when Ace comes back that it was Chris Bay who took him out, whether Ace saw it happen or Bay does it in the light of day and owns up to it later that, no, I did it because I don't want to team with you.
I think that would be an interesting point on it. And not only that, but because it involves like the storyline revolving the whole thing when it comes to BC, that isn't just Impact when it comes to that. So I think that'll be interesting to see if that does happen. And if it's not any of the people that were there, I think it will be interesting to see. Like, I feel like maybe within the next week or so, probably going to get like security footage, and they're going to see the person just throwing out an Ace Austin, all of a sudden leaving the scene. So I think that'll be interesting to see when they do show it, especially if it's somebody that wasn't there. Because at this point, you're thinking, who could it be if it wasn't any of those people that were there?
It was Rikishi. He did it for The Rock.
Oh gosh. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see going forward who did do it, because obviously at this time it's somebody. I don't want to say it like this, but it's like in a way somebody that's like a coward. Because if it's like one of those heels that has confidence, they would come out and say it. They wouldn't just hide. And even Musa himself, he's like, if I would have done it, I wouldn't, like, you wouldn't know. So that's interesting to see from Moose, because usually he's really upfront about stuff like that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Since you mentioned it, we'll jump. It's kind of skipping over one thing, but we can double back. After the match was over, we did get a brief backstage of Dreamer and Bully, and this is where I took a note too, that Dreamer just feels really awkward to me in this position right now. The interaction in the locker room, even Moose, like, or no, I think it was Bully specifically, called out Dreamer for what he was saying, that I trust you didn't do this. I know you didn't do this, but I want you to turn and look me in the eye and tell me you didn't do this. Like,
Yeah.
and Bully's like, wait, so you trust me and you know I didn't, but I still need to tell
Yeah.
you I didn't? Like,
He's like, I need to
what do you
hear
mean?
it.
Yeah. That it just felt really awkward to me.
Mhm.
So I'm also leery of Dreamer in this situation. Like, Dreamer just seems to have like inserted himself into this and almost feels like he's kind of hanging the coattails of Bully here. And so it could also make sense there that Dreamer is setting up Bully in this case too, that everybody's expecting Bully to do these kinds of things, so it lets Dreamer get away with doing them behind and blaming it all on Bully at the end of the day.
Yeah, I thought more of that end of Tommy Dreamer, because first he will think about it this way: we both return on the same night, but he wins the match and he gets highlighted, and I don't. He's the one that's getting the world title shot. I'm not, And then if you think of it, it's like, oh, I can easily do something, and people will think it was him because he just arrived and people don't trust him. So he easily has options behind it and reasons why behind it as well. So I think it would be funny maybe when we see it later, if he does say like he did it, knowing that Bully Ray will get blamed, and maybe it will gain some sympathy points for Bully Ray from the audience and from Josh when it does get revealed as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Jumping back a second there too, because we did get a very simple, brief promo there from Heath and Rhino. Very generic stuff, I thought, just talking about Rhino's injury at the hands of Honor No More, how they're coming for revenge and the chase for the title, and they're again mentioning their guarantee from the beginning of the year, just setting us up for that main event tonight between them and Taven and Bennett. Anything that kind of stood out for you from that promo, or pretty simple stuff?
No, I like how they, like I said last week, it's just they keep highlighting this is our goal that we have for this year. And like I said, it's like it's towards the end of the year where people start thinking, I still have a little bit of time to do those resolutions and those goals that I haven't been able to do. So it's nice to see something like this being applied to them, and just thinking, we promised ourselves that this year we will do it. We didn't say when, but we're hoping it happens tonight. And like I said last week, I had the feeling that we're gonna win them anyway after everything happened with David and Mike. So I was like, I had hope for them when I saw the promo. It isn't like usual when you see them and you're like, yeah, you're definitely not gonna win, honey. But okay, good luck with that. So with this one, I feel like I believed it even more, knowing what was happening with the kingdom behind the scenes. So that gave me hope at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. After these kind of backstage segments in the opening segment, we get our first knockouts of the night, and it was a long kind of running segment of the knockouts. I'll let you kind of go through and give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, we had Mia versus Taylor Wilde. I like how they started the match with the sequence they had at the beginning, how they had the drop kicks and then the leapfrog and all that stuff, and then they ended up in that stance, like, and everybody started clapping when they stopped. And I like how the submissions they did too. I like the submission that Mia did on Wild, and the one that Wild had Mia on her back and the way she stretched her out. I wish I would have lasted a little bit longer than it did when it happened during the match itself. But I felt like, and even you pointed it out, and I thought, well, okay, it wasn't just me. I feel like Wild was kind of out of it during this match. I feel like Mia was the one picking up the match more than anything. The only thing that I knew beforehand that this was probably going to be Mia's last match, so I was not expecting her to win it. But I guess it just gives momentum to Taylor Wilde for the future, for the knockout side, or if anything. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting that Wild seemed kind of out of it here, like physically during the match. I wish she would have done better in that aspect of it. So that's why I didn't expect her to win too. But I knew it would probably be her winning over Mia. But yeah, it was like an okay match. But at the same time, like I noticed, this was the only knockouts match that we got tonight, which feels weird for Impact because we get at least 2 matches every night. So yeah, it felt kind of odd in that end of it. But yeah, it was okay match for me.
Yeah, the match itself, to me, I think you're right that Taylor did look out of it. She looked kind of all over the place. Her timing was definitely off. I almost want to say she had to knock off that ring rust, really.
Mhm.
That there were a couple spots. There was the one where she tried to roll through on a pin for the bridge and couldn't even get herself rolled
Yes.
over properly. There was another where she elbowed Mia and then she swung around behind Mia's back, and it's like you almost could see her tell Mia, hit me, to
Mhm.
like set up the next spot there. And even the finish into her wild ride back, German suplex for the pin, it really felt like there was just so much time in a lot of those spots where Taylor wasn't prepared to hit it or was waiting a little
Mhm.
extra to make sure Mia was ready to take it, which having seen a lot more of Mia Yim than I have of Taylor Wilde, I
Mhm.
feel like that really reflects poorly on Taylor. That I know I've seen Mia move a lot faster in other matches, and
Yeah.
I think Taylor just needed her to slow down for her,
Mhm.
which is rough. Like I think Taylor Wilde's in a good spot right now. She's going to get to work with some really talented people going forward. She's at this match. We get the post match segment where Mickey James comes out and looks like she's about to
Mhm.
challenge Taylor Wilde to be the next on the last rodeo
Yeah.
tour, when we have Chelsea and Diana and Giselle show up and ruin the moment, setting up now that we're getting a 6-woman tag with them against Taylor, Mickey, and the champion Jordan Grace next week.
Mhm.
Um, that's a lot of really talented people for Taylor Wilde to be taking the ring with for her second match back. A lot. Like with
Mhm.
Mickey and Jordan on her side, I think they can help
Mhm.
her a lot and help to kind of
Yeah.
cover up a little bit of those flaws. But Chelsea and Diana,
Mhm.
as her opponents too, are very, very talented people to be on the other side of that ring.
Yeah, I think it's just people that not only compared to Taylor, I feel they'd be more active in the ring. So if anything, they can pick up the scraps that if anything happens with her, and at the same time, if she's out of it, she can definitely tag into one of the ladies. So she definitely has that moment to take that breather, recollect herself, and keep going. Compared to how it happened this match, and that was the part that she also had like a move that she kind of jumped from the middle rope towards Mia, and I could tell like from the camera angle they highlighted Mia more, and Mia was like waiting for her to jump into her. And Mia was like literally like waiting for her like for like an extra second long.
Yeah.
And even at that moment, you're like, yeah, she took a little bit too long for that one, unfortunately. And it makes it look like it was Mia's fault, but it definitely wasn't. But at least I think in next week it will definitely help having all those ladies in the room with her. Hey, Barry, thank you for joining us. He's saying, I've never been that impressed with Taylor Wilde. She's an average wrestler. Be good for Impact to fill the roster, but not champion material in my book. I think just one of those, like, she could easily be like a short term kind of feud for Jordan if needed, while they build up somebody else to face her. So I don't see her, if she does face Jordan in some time, I don't see it being something too long either way. Um, but yeah, I feel like it doesn't help the performance tonight. Because if you're going like this with just Mia, can you imagine with her and Jordan? Like I feel like Taylor will definitely die if that happens.
Yeah, I mean, she's been around a very long time, that she should have a little bit more capability to run with people
Yeah.
like that. But you're right, Barry. She is a pretty average wrestler. I remember seeing her last year when she came back for that run with the Influence for a little while too, and had the matches with Madison and I want to say Emma. It's been a long time since she's been Emma. She's Tennille. But she had the feuds with them, and
Mhm.
I mean, they put on decent matches with them, but nothing that was a barn burner or like took my breath away for sure. I think she's a good person to just have in this last rodeo spot with Mickey, that she's going to get a couple matches in ahead of time. She's going to get her feet wet. She's going to try and shake some of that rust off. Probably put on a great match with Mickey, because we all know Mickey can put on a great match with a garbage can.
Mhm.
Um, and then maybe just kind of fade away back into the background a little bit more in an Alicia kind of role again, where maybe she pops up here or there, or maybe she's just on a short-term deal for a few shows here, and then she's going to take and head off to
Mhm.
wherever she's been for the last little while again.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, with Impact, you never really know in these cases when
Mhm.
somebody's here on a short-term deal like a Bobby Fish was, or somebody's going to sign and stay for a couple years or anything like that. It's such a revolving door and an open crew really that comes and goes as they need, that it really makes it that you can't predict who's going to be in a title position a couple months down the line, which is a nice piece of what they offer.
Yeah, and I feel like with everything that happened tonight, from Mia to Honor No More, I feel like it leaves some spots open as well for them to bring either new people or build up some of the people more than they have in the show. Like today, we didn't see Trey, we didn't see Mike Bailey, we didn't see some of the knockouts. Like it's rare to not see Killer Kelly now or Tasha and Savannah. So I feel like maybe having them with those spots that are opened up now, maybe that will open up spots for other people to be on more often and have longer matches too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the knockouts division's always been a strength of the company, that even without an overcrowded roster or like even a full roster, they can still make do with what they've got and make it happen. Like you said, we didn't have Killer Kelly, we didn't have Tasha or Savannah, we didn't have Masha Slamovich tonight, we didn't have the knockouts tag team champions, we didn't see Rosemary, Taya, or Jessica tonight. Lots of different pieces moving around. And then I guess the big one right now too is that news broke this week that Su Yung has been seen in a ring now for the first time in a long time. So that's somebody else that I believe is still in the Impact repertoire that they can pull out at any time. You've got your Brandy Loren as well, and Kimber Lee, that are still technically under contract and a part of the Impact Knockouts as the Undead Bridesmaids that haven't been seen because Su Yung hasn't been around. So there's plenty for them to still pull out and use with us.
Yep.
Following all of that with the women's segment, we got the backstage confirming that 6-woman match is happening next week. And then we got a very, very short backstage just to set up the next match of Jason Hotch complaining about that guy taking his spot in the Call Your Shot gauntlet. And I don't know, maybe you can confirm for me, Natra, who was he speaking to back there?
I don't want him to appear behind me.
No. Do you know who she was? The girl.
Oh, who she was? No.
No. I know I recognized her. I know she's been around. I think she might have been somebody in Swingers Casino for a little while. But she kept saying, "Who's he? Say his name. What's his name? Say his name and he will appear. I believe in Joe Hendry."
I feel like they should do that filter. I don't know if you've seen the filter of smile that people have been doing on TikTok, that she shows up behind them with a big smile. They should do that with Joe Hendry, so when you put the filter, it's right behind you when you call it.
You know what? I am not 100% sold on Joe Hendry yet, but I'm getting there real fast. This man has charisma oozing out of him. And this gimmick is so much like a Bo Dallas, Bo Leave kind of gimmick to me that it's infectious. I enjoy it. I want to sing the song. I want to believe. And then even in the match tonight, it was pretty much a squash match. He, 5-6 moves he hit on Jason Hotch, and it was over. I loved the spot at the end where we have Jason Hotch actually hits a move, takes Joe Hendry down, and then stands with his back to Joe and says to the crowd, "I don't believe in Joe Hendry." And as he says Joe Hendry just pops up in the background. Just
that angle was, that was nice timing when that happened too.
Like perfect timing, perfect charisma. He just owned the spot. Say his name and he will appear. That finishing move, I don't think it has a name, and I don't know what we can call it, because it looks like it wants to be a choke slam, but instead of grabbing the neck, he grabs them by the chest and just one hand presses up and down in a choke slam style. It's original, and it looked crisp and clean, just like everything else he did in that ring.
Yeah, and I liked how he, even when he's doing the match, he tries to get the crowd to sing the song and even clapping to it. And I feel like it's nice too, like if they kept going clapping with it while he's wrestling, kind of like what Omega does with the Terminator, something similar to that. Because I feel like it keeps the crowd alive, but it also stands out because you're thinking like, this is catchy. Like I need to clap to this when I hear it too. But I'm still not sold on it. I know you're more sold on it than I am, but the song is very catchy. Every time I hear it, I just want to go. It's like the Friends song. You just have to clap to it when it happens.
I mean, he was singing mid-match.
Yeah.
He had Jason Hotch up for a brainbuster, and he's still singing the song mid-brainbuster. It was fun. And then the other thing that I did note that really kind of popped me as well was Matthew Raywalt making the comment that Joe Hendry is his spirit animal. And that he's basically like a Joe Hendry, and starts listing off the things, and Tom Hannafin chimes in, and a beautiful head of hair, right? I just loved it. The cheap jab there from Tom at Raywalt about it being bald, and yeah, your beautiful head of hair, Raywalt.
I wanted to point out Barry's comment here too. Jason Hotch is someone who has a bright future. He can wrestle and talk, and could see him doing well in the X division. I feel, even tonight, just watching that little bit of him made me want to watch more from him too. So I like it. I feel like I benefited from watching both of them because I want to see more from both after this match, even how short it was.
Yeah. I mean, Jason Hotch, he definitely did well with the mic time that he was given, calling out like Joe Hendry and trying to complain about it and stuff. Nothing negative to say there. He didn't really get any offense in, but he definitely looked like he could take the moves just as solid. I mean, it takes two to hit a move as crisp as Joe Hendry was hitting them, and Jason Hotch was taking everything super clean, and it looked really good between them for a squash match. Once this match was finished, we took a break, and we came back to see Scott D'Amore in the ring waiting for Frankie Kazarian to relinquish the title to him. We got confirmation. Frankie Kazarian came out. He played around a little bit on like, should I, shouldn't I? And then, you're damn right I should. And he hands it over, and Scott D'Amore lays it out for him that by handing over the title, we are setting up an 8-person tournament that will culminate at Overdrive November 18th for the X Division Championship to crown a new champion. And then that is also the same night that we are going to get Frankie Kazarian versus Josh Alexander for the title. What do you think?
I love this from beginning to end because I remember watching. It reminds me of how I started watching TNA with my brother, and for him it was always like AJ and Cass. Those are his two favorites out of anybody. Even though he likes a lot of the people, that was his two favorites. So to think about like Cass talking about his life, and he's like, if things to impact, I have my wife and I have my son, and it's nice to see that connection between his family and wrestling and the company itself. And even when he said, I never been world champion, I feel like sometimes I forget that even though Cass has been wrestling for so long, he hasn't had the world title. It's just like I never thought about it until he pointed it out. And not only that, but I like the people that he mentioned, like mentioning AJ, Joe, and Angles, like, they've been successful, and I want that. And even though my family's proud of me, I'm not proud of myself until I make this happen. And I like how he wrapped that up pretty nicely. But yeah, having that, it was so interesting, and just I cannot believe we're getting not only the new X Division champion, plus, we get Cass and Josh on the same night. So that's going to be a great pay-per-view already for me so far. And then having Steve Macklin just attack him, I feel like it just finally, I feel like it ties up to what happened last week, that, it's like we didn't recap it. We didn't add it in the recap for you, but we're going to add it now for you in this part of it. And having Josh come in and just assist Cass at the end. So I feel like it really wrapped it up pretty nicely there for us. And at the same time, I like Cass and Josh, so I think that'll be a pretty good match to watch.
Yeah, I mean, Macklin coming in here kind of made it a little bit more, made it make sense more why they left him out of the open. They wanted it to be a little bit more of a surprise, because this was, they were zoomed right in. They had that close shot cut where you couldn't see Macklin coming until he was on top of Kazarian. The assault, the beat down, the caught in the crosshairs in the corner, and then Josh coming out to make the save and chase off Macklin. And the post-match too, where you have Kazarian and Josh backstage, and Kazarian saying, I'm a multiple-time tag team champion. If I needed a partner, I'd have someone there to have my back. I don't need you. But since we're helping each other out, don't trust Bully Ray.
Yeah, I like how he went back to that too, and not only that, but what he said, or if I needed somebody that'll be here, it'll be somebody I trust. So that'll be like maybe one of my former partners. But at the same time, since we're already tied up together, I like that he's like, don't trust Bully Ray. And I feel like people are gonna keep pointing at that out to Josh at a point that he's gonna become annoyed by it and just try to trust Bully Ray just to prove everybody wrong of what everybody keeps telling him to his face so often. But yeah, I'm really excited for the match, and I feel like this promo alone just kind of sold me on, especially from Cass's end.
Yeah, like I said last week, I think this is all just leading in the direction that they're going to build that paranoia in Josh to a point where they actually, Bully is being honest and should be trusted, but Josh is going to be so paranoid from everybody telling him for so long that he's going to be the one that strikes first. He's going to expect that Bully's going to pull the trigger on him, and so he's going to pull the first shot.
Yeah, here to Barry's comment. I like Cass, but I really want another AEW wrestler holding the Impact title. Yeah, I definitely get where you're coming from with that. I just feel like at this point he doesn't feel like an AEW wrestler because I feel like he's been in Impact more than AEW at the moment. So it just feels and then not only that, but his history makes you feel like he's more Impact than AEW.
Yeah, he's definitely leaning into that Impact history he has. I know when he first came in for that match, for the number one contender, even he was announced as the AEW representative in that gauntlet match. And so he was brought in under the pretense of that, but they're really leaning into the fact that he's now a 5-time X Division champion. They mentioned his multiple-time Impact Tag Team champions. They've leaned into him, impacts his family, and he's been here forever, and he's done it all. And, mentioning the AJs, the Joes, the Angles, and Sabins, and the people that he's been in the ring with, and really kind of running with that they're making him feel like the homegrown boy he really should be. Sure, he's signed to a contract to AEW right now, but he's still an Impact original at the end of the day. It feels like we've come a long way from the Elite Hunter Frankie Kazarian a year ago to be the Impact World Champion number one contender right now.
Yeah, plus I feel like as much as I wanted the Elite Hunter to really happen, I feel like it didn't really happen because they just tried it like a couple of times and that was it. I feel like I expected a match to happen involving them and the Elite, and nothing happened there. So just at the point, I'm like, was he really the Elite Hunter? Might as well leave him to what is happening right now because I feel like that didn't happen.
Yeah. One other thing I did want to mention out here, though, is I really appreciated Kaz coming out and during his speech and mentioning off all of those big names. He made sure to give props to Speedball. And I think that's a big thing that everybody really needs to recognize right now is what Speedball Mike Bailey is doing. He is getting recognition. He is getting a rub. He is getting props. He is getting accolades from every single one of these veterans he has been in the ring with, from Alex Shelley to Frankie Kazarian to Trey Miguel to everybody he's wrestling is talking about how amazing Speedball Mike Bailey is. And I think that is something that is really going to play forth in the future. And I think Speedball is really climbing the ladder as fast as anyone possibly can right now.
Yeah, I feel like usually when people talk up, they don't really talk about their opponents after they like the way Cass did with Speedball. Is usually like I beat so and so, and that's about it to kind of like add them to a resume. But I like how he painted that picture of us about Speedball. Just even though I beat him, he's still great, and look at that great reign that he had. And I like how he just highlighted him in that light during that promo, though.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing that came from this for me is we're still 4 weeks away, almost a full month away from Overdrive. We've now declared Kazarian and Josh Alexander for the championship a month ahead of time. And we've got this whole thing with Macklin going on. Is there a possibility Steve Macklin forces himself into this title match and makes it a triple threat?
Yeah, I can definitely see it. I mean, I wouldn't want it to happen in the sense of like I want Steve to get his own title match and not be part of this one. Plus, it's just the way you have and the way they're painting the picture for us about Cass not being a world champion before and having this title shot the way he got it. I would prefer it to be 1-on-1 and add Macklin maybe for the second match if they do a rematch. But both of them, I feel like they deserve their one-on-one matches. I don't want it to be a 3-way, but it will be interesting to see it. Though. If they do add him, I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah, like I just feel like that could be something we're heading towards here, just the way he keeps
Mhm.
playing into this story. The fact that he came up just short in the Collier shot, and then he comes out to try and make it, and Bobby Fish steps in front of him, and then now Frankie Kazarian stepping in front, and just everybody keeps jumping the line in front of Macklin, that I
Mhm.
feel like he's just going to keep coming, and he's just going to keep beating people down, tag him and bag him, mayhem for all, until that title's around his waist.
Mhm.
After all of this went through, we got Eddie Edwards arriving to the building. And of course, he doesn't even make it out of the parking lot. And Alicia's there questioning him on where's he been, what's he been doing, why hasn't he been answering, what's his decision. And then immediately behind Alicia, you get all of Honor and come walking out. Where you been? What are you doing? And all he tells them as is something has to come to an end. You'll find out tonight.
Mhm. Yeah.
And walks in the building.
Before we move on, I wanted to highlight also Barry's comment. I feel like this is also a good idea now that you mentioned it. Having a three-way loss Kazarian to win without pinning Josh. It's like I wouldn't want Josh to lose it, but yeah, that's a good idea if it does happen that way too.
Yeah. It would also allow potentially the other way around, that you could have Macklin pin Kazarian to continue a Macklin and Josh one-on-one feud later on.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Or
this
Josh
part.
to pin Kazarian for Macklin to, I was never pinned. I think they did that with Macklin for a little bit last year too, where he kept losing triple threat matches but never actually got pinned. That you could kind of circle back on that story again and have him chasing a title, being like, nobody's pinning me, but I don't win.
No, I was thinking back also about this part with Eddie and Alicia. I feel like I was in between about it because I felt like Eddie turned not too long ago, so I don't expect him to have a face turn. But I also figured something like this had to like happen for them to end on No More in some way. So I had a feeling this was happening sooner or later. But yeah, I don't expect him to like join in with his wife and like, oh, nothing happened. We're back together again. Hello, Bobby. How was your night? I saw you interview as Alex Kane, if I'm not mistaken, right? I tried to watch a little bit, but I was watching Impact too before it started.
Hey, Bobby, thanks for joining. No, the Alicia and Eddie story, I think you're right. It's too soon after he's turned heel for Eddie to really be accepted back as a face again right now.
Mhm.
So it had to go in the route of somebody else turning face on Eddie. Ultimately, later in the night, that's kind of what we got here. But before then, we got Eric Young and Rich Swann. I didn't take a ton of notes on this. It wasn't a match that really blew me away. I think they're really doing a lot right now to try and sell and build this Violent by Design, the designed, and the yellow hoodies coming out, and just all of these people that are Eric Young's minions just attacking from the sidelines. Ultimately in this match, though, we got Rich Swann getting the win, and then as he's leaving the ring, gets attacked by one of these yellow hoodies, and then Cody Deaner's there as well and takes the sucker punch. Lights out, lights on, death machine, thumbs up, thumbs down. Sami Callihan and Eric Young has to happen sometime here, probably leading up to Overdrive. I think, again, it's a long time to lead to Overdrive. It's a really long time between big shows right now for Impact. It feels like it's going to be a little bit of a slow. Like, we feel like we're moving really fast early here in the story builds, that I think we're going to hit some kind of lulls here where the story feels like it's dragging before we actually hit Overdrive.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because since the match started, I kept thinking, who's going to help out Rich? Because somebody's going to come out. Who is it? And I couldn't think of who it would be. I don't know why. And I kept thinking, is it Willie Mack that was with him? And I think he's gone at the moment. So I was like, yeah, he's gone. So that's not it. And I kept wandering through the roster that I know, and I couldn't think of anybody. So when the lights turned off, I was like, funny, I want to get my answer. Oh, Sammy. Okay. But I feel like at the same time, I'm glad that he's moved on from that Moose and Steve thing, because at this point, I just feel like it was dragging on too much. So I'm glad he has something new for him. And I think it'll be interesting to see him and Rich teaming up sometime soon because they have clashing styles as well. So I feel like I want to see how that looks on screen. And then when the person with the hoodie came out, I was so surprised. I was wondering, who the heck is this? I don't know why I forgot for a moment that they have the disciples or whatever they want to call them with the hoodies on. It took me a moment to process it. And so I saw the person and their hand signals. I was like, okay, I remember now. I was like, why? I kept thinking the red hoodie from NXT. I was like, yeah, this is not it. What is happening with me?
No,
So when
the
that happened, I was
yellow
kind
hoodies,
of thrown off by the hoodie. I was like, too many people in hoodies lately. What is going on?
the
Um,
designed.
but either way, yeah, this was one of those, like, it was a very quick match. Nothing that really stood out to me like that. I just, aside from the ending with like Sammy assisting.
Yeah, Rich managed to hit a lot of his spots. I mean, Rich always has kind of the flashy, quick, fast, high flying spots. The shoulder bounce off the ring ropes, the hand spring back into a cutter, the top rope, the high flying. Just lots of stuff going on with Rich that usually you can find a few enjoyable spots in any match that he's in. But it was a pretty generic formulaic match. I think really just to get to the end and the story progression that came afterwards. Rich and Eric, the only thing that really set this match up was the fact that Rich Swann eliminated Eric Young from the Collier shot, which, I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, there's a lot of stories going on right now that all seem to have stemmed off that Collier shot gauntlet.
Yeah,
With
I
Joe
was about to
Hendry,
say that
they
too.
have Jason Hotch saying like Joe Hendry stole his spot in the Collier shot. You have Sammy Callahan was eliminated by Eric Young's designed in that Collier shot, and then Eric Young was eliminated by Rich Swann, and you have I feel like there was whoever eliminated Moose, now that I'm blanking on it, but you had Bhupinder Gujjar last week eliminating Matt Cardona led to a match, and lots of stuff like that were really kind of playing out the stories of, I'm mad that you eliminated me from this gauntlet match, so now we're going to have a one-on-one.
Yeah, I noticed that too, and I was about to mention it because I feel like even though the Collier shot was not what I hoped it would be, because I didn't want Bully to win it, but I like how so many stories came out of it, especially starting with Bully Ray and Josh and Tommy Dreamer. So I think that's interesting how so many storylines coming from just people eliminating each other.
It's a good way when you can do it with that. You had, I think, 19 competitors in that match, which was weird to me when I was counting them out. I don't think they ever actually had a 20th, which I thought for sure you'd have to go an even number, but they didn't. But to when you have all of those people in a ring together at different times and whatnot, it's good to actually take and build off that and have it lead to so many different stories. That there was so many interactions in that match. You can play that out for an entire month of all of these just different stories like that, and it's exactly what Impact's doing.
Yep.
Once the Callahan Death Machine was done in the ring, we got Brian Myers and Matt Cardona backstage answering my question from last week. Matt Cardona talking about how he handed the title off to Brian Myers, and but he doesn't need the title. Myers has been a good champ and is now the second longest reigning digital media champion, behind himself, of course. But the major players, there's more gold to be had and to go after, and they declare that they're going after the tag team titles now. So Cardona and Myers seem to be on the same page. Matt's not coming for Brian's title anytime soon, apparently, and we're going to have them actually teaming in the ring and potentially heading after our new champions now.
I feel like after watching this, I know I get it, the major players part, but at the same time, Cardona being Cardona, I don't believe him. I really don't. He doesn't sell me on it. It feels like it's kind of those like I'm gonna tell you this now, so that way I'll get you later kind of thing, and like keep your guard down because you're my friend for now. So it felt kind of that vibe for me. It just, when he said, "Oh yeah, I've been there, done that," I was like, "You're right. You just want to have gold somehow. So just, you're gonna get what you can. So for you, it might be easier in a way to go against your best friend." So and it feels too easy.
Would you say you're always ready for a Cardona turn?
Always. I'm always prepared for this. Yeah, when he said it, I was like, yeah, I'm not sold on you, honey. I don't believe you. I really don't. It's like I kept thinking it's just a way to have Brian keep his guard down and have, take the title when he can. And it's like, yeah, they might go off of the tag team titles for like maybe a couple of weeks just to like have him keep his guard down. It's like, here, you're gonna be like a 2-belt champion, but then he's gonna try to take that title off of him somehow because Cardona just wants gold. It doesn't matter what it is. He just wants to have gold around his waist. And I feel like now that his waist is empty, he's going to want to collect gold again somehow. And that's just his way of doing it. Because it just seems too easy to be like, no, we're fine. I don't need that title. I'll get another one. No, I don't believe you, Cardona. I really don't.
The thought I had out of this is the way they mentioned how Cardona's the longest reigning digital media champion and now Myers is second. could it be something where we see Cardona cost Myers a match to stop him, or turn on him to try to stop him from passing that like longest reigning champion mark?
Yeah, and that he could easily just say, "I don't want you to beat me. Like I gave you the title, but I didn't tell you to be better than me," in a
Yeah.
sense. So just like, yeah. So anything that you could think of with Cardona, I'm sold on it because I don't believe anything that he just said tonight.
Yeah, it'll be interesting going forward. I think it's way too soon. These two have feuded way too much recently to go back into feuding again. They just started teaming up again, so I don't want to see it. But at the same time, I could very well see it because it is very Cardona-like to his digital media world championship.
Is he the internet champion without the digital media championship? Yeah, I don't believe it.
We got the layout of the card for next week. And I'm also going to take this opportunity to kind of break down, because they did show us the entire X Division tournament bracket. So first, we confirmed and had the graphic up for Giselle and Vexed versus Jordan Grace, Mickey James, and Taylor Wilde next week in a 6-woman knockouts tag match. The X Division tournament bracket, we got Black Taurus versus Laredo Kid, which is confirmed to be on before the Impact next week. We have Alan Angels versus Trey Miguel on the main show of Impact next week. And then the other first round matchups, we have Yuya Uemura versus PJ Black. And we have Kenny King versus Speedball Mike Bailey.
I took a screenshot, so I'm just going to put it on screen real quick so that way it's a good visual for everybody when it comes to the matches. Sorry, I just took a screenshot from from the live stream itself, so it's not going to look the prettiest. But I just wanted to really show it off. But I thought it was interesting that they started with BTI because, like you mentioned, they have a month towards building this up. Oh, I keep putting. Oh, there you go. So just like if you have a month towards build up, how come you couldn't do one match per week, or maybe even 1 week with 2 matches? So I don't know that part. Didn't understand that part of it because you have enough time to do it. But yeah, I thought it was interesting that I kept thinking maybe for everybody, or just put it this way, the left side of the screen with Black Taurus and Laredo Kid and Yamura and PJ Black, maybe it'll be all on BTI. Versus the other side of Alan Angels, Trey Miguel, Kenny, and Mike Bailey. Maybe it'll be all Impact shows, but I thought it was interesting that they're starting with BTI, though.
So I think just looking at the schedule, so the 27th next week, we'll have the first 2 matches. Assume we'll probably get the other 2 matches on the 3rd. And then it would probably make sense that they could lay it out. Either we get both of the second round matchups on the 10th, or you get one on the 10th, one on the 17th. But I would think you do them both on the 10th, and then you can have a little bit of build happen on the 17th before the match takes place on the 18th.
Yeah.
So you do 2 matches a week to lead up into that main show.
And like everybody's saying, like I definitely don't understand why they put on BTI. Why can they just highlight it on TV? Especially, like I said, we probably don't have a lot of Honor No More happening in the next couple of weeks. So I feel like it gives you like a little bit more time to highlight the X Division. But so far, I like how they put in the tournament. I just thought it was interesting that there was no Ace Austin and no Chris Bay, for example. Like I'm going back to the beginning of the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ed has a point here as well, that it's the same as AEW keeps putting stuff on Dark to try and convince people to watch Dark. I think this is a way. Plus the fact that BTI is available for free for all viewers. So putting an X Division tournament match like this, something of importance on there, it's a way to get people watching it, but it's also a way for people who don't maybe pay for the regular shows, that they can watch that and see, like, this is what they're giving away for free. What do I get if I actually pay the subscription fee? Which really, if you don't have it already and you watch, or you're interested in Impact and you're watching our show, there's no reason not to. It's $1 a month for a YouTube subscription to actually be able to watch the live Thursday feeds and the YouTube Insiders shows. You're only going to miss 4 pay-per-views a month that you actually have to pay more than that $1 a month subscription fee for. Or I think I pay $6 or $7 Canadian for the Impact Plus app that I can actually pull up on the computer and watch everything through there as well, and all of the old Impacts and all of the exclusive events and the behind the Impacts. And I even went back this week. They gave away the free Alicia Edwards match from Create a Pro. That was a solid triple threat match between her and a couple other ladies. So lots of good stuff for a low price for Impact here. That I'll preach it until my throat gets sore. How much I think anybody who loves pro wrestling and anybody who's loved Impact before, this is the time to start paying attention again. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of rollover of roster, but it doesn't matter who they put in the spots. They always make them feel like a star.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I think that match was also included in the membership, because I know you have Impact Plus, and I can talk about the YouTube membership end of it. I feel like my membership is not even $5 from the one. There's two different tiers, if I'm not mistaken. So even then, it's really, really affordable. Not only that, but if you think about it this way, I keep forgetting the Impact at 8:30 for YouTube, and I keep thinking it's at 8, but it's not. But it's at 8:30. You get no commercials as well. You only get the Impact commercials, so they're not going to be boring either, because they have to do with the show that you're watching. Live right there, you get to chat with other fans as well. So I don't see why you wouldn't do it. And just like they put it every single week, and you can watch the old episodes too. So I'm going back to watch what I haven't seen, like in order. And Hello, it's an hour and a half show, no commercials. Like I'm already sold, because I don't like having commercials. So the less commercials I watch, the better for me. But yeah, I like having that, and I like how they have it in the Impact Plus by years. So it depends on what you want to watch. It's all very organized too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. Let's jump into the main event here. I think we've kind of went through everything else. Heath and Rhino versus the Kingdom for the Impact World Tag Titles. Obviously, Maria Kanellis-Bennett in the corner of Mike Bennett and Matt Taven. Right off the bat, a brawl, which I think was fully expected between these four guys. They've been going for quite a while. It was a pretty solid match all in all. I think there was a lot of back and forth. You had a lot of different hot tag scenarios. Matt Taven missing a moonsault, leading to the Heath hot tag, but ultimately Heath's hot tag kind of cools off and he gets caught and then gets to be the face in peril for a little while as well. What did you think of this match?
I feel like we got a lot of that storytelling, not only from like the Kingdom and their history being partners. It's like you can see the chemistry between them and how well they play off as heels. So I was like, I am never get tired of them being the way they are. And also we get that end of it, like Rhino and Heath wanting to fulfill that goal that they said they wanted to do for this year. So I just kept thinking of those two things as the match was happening. Plus I kept thinking, like I said earlier, just like this is the end of the Kingdom as champions, most likely. And I feel like either way, they really highlighted everybody, and even Maria being there ringside like they always do. So for me, it was very well done from beginning to end, and I really liked the ending too.
Yeah, the ending was really well done. I think I liked the other nod that we had in there too, to kind of the miscommunication that was happening in the Motor City Machine Guns feud for the Kingdom. That you had, I think it was Taven was on the top rope and Bennett got shoved into him and ended up knocking him off the rope in the corner there. Lots of different teases like that. Ultimately, you end up with Maria with the powder, throwing it in her husband's face. Matt Taven then lined up for a gore, moves out of the way that Maria gets gored, and props like hell to Maria Kanellis-Bennett, because that gore looked vicious, even more so because it looked like her head snapped off that bottom rope, and those ropes are not soft. If you've ever been in a ring, ever been around a ring, you know that those ropes are pretty solid, and for her head to bounce off that rope the way it did, really, really impressed me. I guess that we know she can take a bump, but she did it and she just continued rolling under the ring. She didn't even make it look like it really phased her as far as taking the gore went. Obviously a couple wake-up calls from Heath. You have Honor Namoro causing a distraction. Still didn't work. Heath and Rhino get the pin, take the titles, celebrate like there's no tomorrow. And then finally Eddie Edwards comes out to make his news.
Yeah, and I want to go back to Barry's comment. OGK really played off heels well. Bennett playing the crowd more than I've seen them before Impact, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I like that more than anything. It was more like you played off with their characters during the match. And like I said, it's like the Kingdom may have been champions, but Maria's the real champion in this group. Like she takes so many bumps that she get impressed every time you see her, no matter how she does it. And this was one of those, like, when I saw Rhino in the corner, I kept thinking, oh no, it's gonna be Maria, isn't it? Yeah, it is gonna be her.
Yep.
Ouch. But I feel like she plays it off so well. And not only that, but it just shows you how dedicated she is to the team, that she would take those bumps for them too. So it's also nice to tie this up to the team as a whole.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved it.
Bennett, as well, as Barry says, Bennett, the spot that I really saw him playing to the crowd was that spot where it was the heel moment, where he had tagged out but not really tagged out. He just got out of the ring and Taven came in, and Bennett just so that the ref would hear it while his back was turned, which never seems to work except for when the heels do it, but we'll roll with it.
Yeah.
And then the crowd were booing and getting super mad at it, and he's really just amping it up, like, yeah, get mad at me, that's right, you know you hate me.
Yeah.
Eddie Edwards comes out, kind of plays off a little bit of how much Honor No More are failures. Taven and Bennett, you just lost the titles. Failure. Kenny King, you had the X Division in your grasp. You lost. Failure. Vincent, you try and play peacekeeper, but really you're just trying to save your own ass. And then PCO, you're failure after failure after failure after failure. Vincent tries to put the bag over PCO's head to try and like turn him away and avoid something. But I forget, did you take the note of what Eddie said that ultimately triggered PCO? He called him a coward or something, right?
Yeah, he called him a bitch. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what it was. And PCO rips the bag off his head, attacks Eddie, attacks the Kingdom, beats them all down, attacks Kenny as well. And then Vincent tries to calm him down, but Vincent just gets taken out for his troubles as well. I did take specific note of this, that Kenny and Eddie kind of disappeared. And PCO's Rampage took out Taven, Bennett, and Vincent, who were the three with the expiring contracts, supposedly, writing them off TV until we know if they're going to be back or not. But it at least gives them time that they have a reason to be gone for a couple of shows until we know what their long-term future holds.
Yeah, and that's for the people that haven't heard me curse before. There you go. You can highlight that for later. Yeah, I kept thinking of like the way it happened, because it took a while for PCO to kind of get triggered until he did call him a bitch. So I thought that was interesting. And not only that, but Vincent kind of covering him up and just like kind of like, don't pay attention to him, don't listen to him. If you don't see him, it'll be fine. But I like how he just like took it off and just, just targeted everybody. And another thing that I noticed is that he grabbed Vincent, but then Matt Taven came first and tried to help out Vincent. And then they came in Mike and then did the double kick. But even he went back, and still at the beginning, I feel like even with everything, he targeted more Vincent out of anybody, and then the Kingdom after that. So I feel like it had like a priority for him to kind of get that liberty from Vincent. So I feel like it was more like him, especially with the choke slam at the end on the chair. Ouch, the way that the chair just flattened out after it happened, I was like, I felt it in my back. Yeah, that
like
hurt.
that Frankenstein's monster story, right, where the monster has to destroy his keeper in order to feel truly unchained. I think PCO has been on the cusp of this face turn for a little while. I think the Impact Zone and the Faithful have really turned to like him and don't want to hate him, and they've wanted this turn on Honor No More for a while. So it should have been obvious, and it really made a lot of sense how they went with it. I even expected that he might have showed up to cost Eddie the match at Bound for Glory. Ultimately tonight, we still got Eddie saying that PCO was the reason for his loss, because he was so worried and like so focused on dealing with PCO, he couldn't focus on his match. So in a roundabout way, he did blame PCO for the loss. Barry's right, though. I'm just going to call it right now. PCO is ridiculous. I've seen the man live in person in Edmonton here as well, and he's such a ridiculous, over-the-top character that should have no right being entertaining in this day and age, and he can still pull it off. He can, and like the matches he's been putting on, the hardcore stuff with Jonah, and all of it has just been so thoroughly engaging that I don't want to like him, but I still find myself liking him.
Yeah, I keep thinking like it just, when you think about it, sometimes like the people that are veterans that you think like it's been his time, he doesn't belong in the ring. But I don't see that with PCO. Like it doesn't feel sometimes that he's been wrestling for that long, because he's still engaging when you watch him, and I like that about him. I also like that when Eddie was doing the promo, I feel like I like how he pointed out something about everybody. He's like, the Kingdom, you lost the tag titles. Kenny, you lost the X Division title. You almost had it like at your grass and you lost that touch of it. He's like, and then the PCO part, and then Vincent, he's like, you're supposed to be the peacekeeper, but I feel like it's more about you than anybody else. So I feel like he kind of hit the flaws that everybody had within the group, but obviously he doesn't do that for himself because he's like, I don't need to in a way.
He didn't own his own failures. That was the
Yeah.
thing too with the PCO. He
Mm-hmm.
blamed PCO for his loss.
Yep.
He didn't own the fact I didn't lose to Josh.
Mm-hmm.
You were the reason I lost.
Yeah, so you notice how in that end of it, he just gives guilt to everybody. It's like, you felt because of this and that. So he had a reasoning for everybody, but he never bounced it back to him as a leader, because it feels like when you think of Honor No More, I think of him as the leader. But it's just like, you guys have the flaws, and I'm good. Trust me, I'm good. Don't worry about it. But I also wonder how they're going to play this out with Alicia, maybe next week, perhaps, because she told him that ultimatum is like, it's either them or us. Now we're done. So it's like, now that he's done with them, what happens between both of them now and on the storyline. So I thought that part was interesting. But like you said, you can see how they highlighted that, if anything, Vincent and then the Kingdom got attacked more than anybody through this whole thing. And I like how it ended with PCO being the person on top. Like, you probably thought by the end of it would have been Eddie with the promo and how it happened, but it ended up PCO, which I thought it was strange to me when you think about it on that end of it. But I liked it too, because I never thought that would be him in this position.
Yeah, no, and I'm interested to see how PCO handles this as kind of trying to be the unchained monster, but still the baby face. I think we're probably headed to PCO and Eddie Edwards one-on-one. I think that makes the most sense here.
Mm-hmm.
I do think you're right that we have, excuse me, have to touch on that Alicia and Eddie story some more. Obviously, he's ended, or at least Honor No More ended, whether he ended it or not, but that is ended. So where do they go from here? Because he's still not apologizing. He's still the heel of this story, and Alicia is still a baby face. So something's got to break there. Either she's got to join him on the heel side, or they've got to split, or he's somehow got to like redeem himself back to the face side. So it's an interesting dynamic there. I think Kenny King is the odd man out here.
Mm-hmm.
I think Kenny probably he goes into this X Division title and he starts to kind of find himself again, and move a little bit away from this Honor No More storyline. He never really fit in it very well anyhow. So I'm okay with that. And then I'm really interested to see what happens with OGK and Vincent, because yeah, they're out of contract, but we've also got time until the next taping, that there's plenty of time for things to change. Even if they don't make the November taping, there's still the December tapings that they could be back for. There's Hard to Kill. There's so much within Impact that you never really truly know if somebody's actually gone for good or they're just taking a leave to do other things and they'll be back for a taping in a couple months.
Yeah, so I think overall I feel like it was a good way to start that build off towards the Overdrive pay-per-view. But overall, I feel like it was a good episode to just give you that preview to what's to come. And it gives you that insight of like, not only that, but I feel like for me, I'm excited for the world title. I'm excited for what happens with Eddie next, and then X Division tournaments. I feel like there's a little bit of everything to be excited about right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we close out the show, let me throw it to you as we've done the last couple weeks. Who made your biggest impact of the night?
Jeez. That one's a hard one tonight. I feel like there's a little bit of everything that I liked. I would say definitely PCO, because I just like I haven't watched a lot of him before. I never watched him wrestle before, because I started watching wrestling in the early 2000s. But yeah, it's just interesting to see him getting highlighted out of all people here, because when you think about Honor No More, you think more about Eddie, you think about the Kingdom, and you think a little bit about Vincent, but I feel like PCO and Kenny King are always in the background when it comes to this. So it's nice to see him standing top when the match ends. When the show ends.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think for me it was Kaz. I think I have to go with Frankie Kazarian tonight. Just the promo he cut, giving up the title there, it felt like a really hard-hitting promo. He hit on a lot of pieces that made a lot of sense, made it clear his intentions. I've won the title for this is my 5th time with the X Division title, but I've never had a world title. I don't need to carry the X Division title again at this point. I need to win a world title for myself. I need to win a world title for my family. I need to win a world title because so many of these other names who have won a world title, I know I'm better than. but I still haven't done it myself.
Mhm.
And so for tonight, I think of everything we saw, there wasn't really a lot of impactful moments, but I got to give it to Frankie Kazarian tonight that he made that point of why he belongs in this world title match.
Yeah. Before we close out, I did want to mention, like always, before I forget to mention it, because I'm still getting used to this part of it. Mondays we have a replay on Backbreaker Media on their YouTube channel, so watch out for that too. They should be also on the YouTube as well after it airs. And then thing that Ed should put with the QR code. Thank you, Ed. It's the be a part of the solution fundraising campaign that Mike is doing. So if you can scan that QR code for more information. And the campaign will go up to the end of November. So if you want to donate, just make sure you scan that QR code before the show ends, and we'll probably post it on social media soon. I'll probably send it to Mike so he can post it later too. So that way, yeah, everybody can just hit that fundraiser. And he said the rewards will be announced after Rick Jules' 24-hour charity stream on November 5th. So, and what about where the people can find you, Cody?
You can find me right there at Cody Defoe on Twitch, on Twitter. My Twitter is semi-active. My Twitch still is a work in progress. It may be a work in progress for a while, but I appreciate anybody throwing me follows right away, just so you know when I go live, you can pop in and join me in the chat in there. Just want to say thank you to everyone, Barry, Ed, Chris, Bobby, everyone who joined us in the chat here live tonight. We always appreciate you joining the conversation, appreciate the comments, and kind of the prompts on stuff to let us know what you're thinking as well, and kind of speak to points that you're thinking there as well. If you're watching this on YouTube, we always appreciate you throwing the comments up in there as well. You can catch us live here Thursday nights, 10:30 Eastern, 8:30 Mountain, for the follow-ups to Impact every week. Fridays for the main events. Our next one will be the January 13th Hard to Kill pay-per-view. We will be live immediately following that for recap and reactions to that. And like Astrid said, Mondays you can catch the replay of this on Backbreaker Media's YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, and just so we clarify, for the Overdrive, we will do the Thursday show. We'll just recap Overdrive, and then we'll recap the Impact show. We'll only be doing the Friday shows for the big pay-per-views like Hard to Kill when it happens in January. So just a heads up, it'll be Thursdays even for Overdrive pay-per-view. For me, you can find me on my Twitter, which is Astrid Pizarro. And then tomorrow is the premiere of Ladies Wrestling Showcase at 6 p.m. Eastern. So watch out for that. It'll be a good way for Mel and I to introduce ourselves and what we want to highlight in the show and the formatting and things like that. So just be in the comments, and just any support is appreciated there for that. And I would say just watch out for the people that were supporting people like Parrish. I do taking over with him on Tuesdays. Bobby, who was in the chat earlier, who had a show a little bit before hours at 8 p.m. on his channel. For MLW. I know Ed has some stuff coming up, so watch out for that. And I know not only for us and Backbreaker Media, but all the podcasts, so just supporting them with everything they do. I know they have something coming up on the 24th, which is Paramindful. And then people like even Carl, who does amazing jobs on Tuesdays with Turnbuckle Talk, and even some Mondays now with his Mondays watch along. So it's nice to watch it along with him as well. So yeah, support the good people that are doing, great content online and that we support. So I always watch out on our Twitters. We're always retweeting their stuff. So it's not only just us, but we like supporting the people that support us as well. So always support to them too. And thank you for being in the chat tonight. We appreciate everybody's comments and interactions too.
Absolutely. That all said, she didn't say it herself, but if you're watching this, whether you're watching on Twitch or YouTube later, please follow Astrid's Twitch. That's where you can find us live every Thursday. Twitch.tv/Astrid Pizarro. Give her a follow as well. She's getting to the point of affiliate here and would like to be partners soon. We'd love to have those follows and subscriptions there to help her channel out and help us out with getting you here every Thursday. So you don't forget to check us out and join this conversation.
Well, yeah, that's it for tonight. We'll see you all next week.